afternoon, everyone. My name is Nick, and welcome to our first 10 years of I2N event. It's super exciting. If you haven't heard of I2N, we take your idea and we turn it into a good business. Okay? We're looking at 10 years of I2N. Across 10 years, we've had loads of founders in our teams. They've raised around about $60, $70 million plus, which is really cool. We're actually here for a bigger story. These guys have sold for a figure far bigger than that. I'm not going to spend all of your time for me talking and asking questions. I'm going to hand straight over to Adam and Joe. But before I do, I just want a massive round of applause for them giving us their time and sharing their story. Take it away.
Take it away. As usual, we're underprepared, so we quickly threw a few slides together this afternoon to maybe remind us of a few things. But we'll get chatting. We don't have a real plan between each other, which is normally the situation. So hopefully Joe speaks most of the time, and I'll pitch in every now and then to.
We can talk for Australia. So
So I guess the start of our story. The reason that we're here, it's a Tenambit boy and a Rutherford girl in front of people who want to hear a story about what we did is because of a pretty, once in a lifetime, business that we got involved with. We got involved reasonably early, just by chance. It kind of wasn't planned. Over here. Pegasus.
I might just see what he's showing.
The business that we're talking about started off in the Hunter Valley as a mine surveying business, almost, I would say, 35 years ago now. It then formed into a labour hire business once Peter Eason and Steve Newman at the time, who were the two owners of Pegasus at that time, decided that or were made redundant and moved into a contractor management business at that stage. So, and then from there, we got involved around the early 2000s. I'm thinking, which was when I'd previously been working across the river here at a place called SGS, which was a certification company. Did a lot of the similar sort of stuff to what we ended up doing at Pegasus, but we were mostly certifying coal, but also managing contractors who were taking or were involved in the process of getting it from the pit to here. We first got involved with Pegasus and they were in the process of sort of forming something themselves. They had a lot of contractors that worked on various mine sites in the valley. They thought, while we're onboarding our own people here, it would be good to onboard others. Does that sound like a good idea? Sounds like a good idea. So we got involved at that stage. I had I'd been to the University of Newcastle doing a Bachelor of Computer Science course by that stage. So I was originally coding for this business. As it turns out, I wasn't very good at that, but I was much better at other things. So I recognised that early, and so we started to build a team that built some software then that onboarded contractors onto mine sites at the time, and basically on behalf of the client. So what we recognised early was that there was this enormous network effect that could be mandated from a fairly large organisation that had a sort of what appeared to us to be an endless amount of both contracting companies and workers that work for them, and it just transitioned a lot. We got to work with lots of great companies at that stage, and it helped us build a model that then could be repeatable through different industries like construction, ports, rail, even into retail. Woolworths and Aldi and a couple of others were our sort of larger clients in that space. But it was anyone that had lots of contracted workforce that needed to onboard those people, needed to know, that the companies were insured and they had safety management systems and all the other systems that need to be in place before you get a job working for one of those organisations. But then the workers needed to be verified as well. So we need to see that they were, they were qualified, that they'd been inducted, that they had a career path ahead of them as to how they can keep upskilling, but also, that every time they walked on site, they were going to badge one of our cards and know that all those things that should have taken place before they got on site had taken place. So that was the original concept. As it turned out, everybody kind of liked it, and it started to become a bit of the industry standard. We'd, by that stage, grown enough that we'd started the network effect already. So by about 2017, we were in that phase where we knew we'd passed the tipping point. And the tipping point was when you turn up to a client and they'd say, how many of our contractors have you already got in the database? And we'd say, 50%. And they'd say, well, this is a no-brainer. So, give us a contract and we'll sign on. So that's what people describe as the network effect. When you've only got 10 or 20% of them, you're still trying to sell it hard. When you've reached past that point of being, the main provider in the space, and you're obviously doing the right things by everybody else, then the sale part becomes easy. So in 2017, we decided to raise some money. We thought at that time, I think we had about 3.5 million people in our database here in Australia, which, if you think about the blue collar space, is a large chunk of that here. And especially in heavy industry, because we weren't going after, we had a certain market that we were looking for, a lot of, high risk, high volume contracted workforce. So we raised some money. We went to the UK and the US, and we pitched the business around a little bit. At that stage, we'd met our chairman, a guy named Craig Jones, who would work for Francisco Partners, one of the major PE firms in the US, and he took us on the journey. Like, we didn't know anything about it. We didn't know any of these. They'd asked us words like, who gave you your seed funding? We were like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but we funded the business through mostly inductions and labour hire up until this point. Is that what you're talking about? So they liked the story, but we learnt a lot along the way. We had absolutely no clue about what this ecosystem looked like, but by the end, picked a company called Excel KKR out of about 5 that were interested. The Excel guys for us were the best ones because they wanted to give us growth funding, not buy the whole thing. And we still thought that we had a little way to go. And we didn't know how long that would take. So we tried to, we were just telling the story before, we tried to get the valuation lower than what they wanted to pay us, which isn't the norm. But we knew that we wanted to sell it at some point in the future. So a high valuation for us would have meant that we needed to try and get a high outcome for them. So we sort of underdid it to start with. Knowing that if we needed to pull the lever, that we could pull it early and exit the business at a point in time. As it turns out, about 3 months after we did the raise, COVID hit. The raise was about a $28 million raise on about a $60 million valuation. COVID hit, everything stopped. We were supposed to use the money to go and get into the UK and the US. Because we couldn't do that, we started to reach out to some of our competitors who we knew were in the space, most of them that we'd already met with through the last process, to say, let's be partners, you help us get into the US. And one of them said, well, we don't want to do that, we'd rather buy you. It would be much easier if we just bought it. There's a famous story about a conversation that we had 12 months to the day that we raised the money, where our new buyer and their CEO, Ashad Matin, had said to me, what does the number look like? They'd come back and offered us, I think, they said, look, we think the business is worth about $100 million. We think we can get to 110. What do you think? And I said,
I will tell you what he said to me. I'm just going to go for 150. see how much they want it. And I just laughed. I was like, whatever. And then, yeah.
So the story was, we knew we had to get a 3 to 5 times return for the Excel KKR guys. So, the valuation was about 60. We had to try and get 3 times that. And so, without speaking to the rest of the board and knowing probably what the answer was going to be, I just said, look, I think we're going to be short. I don't think we can do it. And he said, well, let me go away and have a talk to our guys, and I'll come back to you. And I got off the phone. I remember turning to Joe, I feel sick.
I
if
think
anyone ever had offered me $100 million for a business, like you'd fall off your chair. Like, but understanding like the handcuffs that you have after raising money and doing stuff like this, you kind of know how it plays out. So I still know the days. On the 7th of January, he rang back and said, "What do you think the number is?" And I told him the number, and he said, "Right, let's do it." And so I said, "Well, how do we do that? Like the business isn't worth that. So how do you value that?" So they valued it on future revenue at about a 8 or 9 times multiple, and we got there without even meeting them. It was done through COVID. We did it all online. We didn't meet them until about 2 years after we'd transacted, and then I guess you can tell the next part of what happened after that, maybe.
After it was gone.
Oh, after it was gone, yeah.
And I cried for months. No, I think Ad's very modest in the way that he also tells the story. There's lots of very key decision-making points throughout that time, and the business had to divert their attention. We had to, there were many times where we were worried about making payroll. We did transact for 12 months during COVID, so we didn't lose any staff, we didn't lose any clients, but we adapted with our clients over that time to make sure that we had a really good pipeline to be able to sell to the organisation that now is Avetta. So I think he's very modest in how he tells the story and very casual, but there was a lot of stress that came with it, and there was a lot of very, very smart, very well considered decision making throughout that process to get to that point. If you get any time with him, he can tell you all the strains that we had in between that time. But after we sold the business, Ad had to stay in the business for a little while. Is this where you want me to go?
Yeah.
Ad was to stay in the business as the original founder. I was going to, because I was really keen to take my role to a global role. But to be completely candid and honest, working with a US organisation and the culture and the way that they work didn't really sit well with a female leader for me. So I hung in there for quite some time, but there was very little, I think, room for female leaders within that organisation, and rather than wasting my time, I said to Ad, I'm out. So I left him there. Then I went home and sulked for a year because I really did want to stay there, and I think that was always going to be my life. I also don't think that at any time we thought that we really would sell it. And maybe we thought we would, and we would own our first home, but we never thought that we would be in the position that we are now, because money was never what we were after. The other part of the story that Ad never really tells is that what we did with Pegasus was ensured that more than 4 million workers were able to work every day. Casualised workforces were able to work every day, not for one employer, but for multiple employers. So the network effect across that was something that was really unheard of. Nobody would ever have thought of the fact that you're sitting here in a government building. If you're a contractor that works here and you work for John Holland on a project down the road, you've got to go through an enormous amount of compliance to work for I2N. Then if you go to Callaghan, you might actually have to do something different for Callaghan if you're not lucky enough that they have the same processes. Then you have to do exactly the same thing for John Holland down the road. Now, they're all very different entities, but 90% of your profile should be transferable. So the cleverness in the network effect came from the fact that Australia has a really high casualised workforce, that we now enabled people to be able to move around more efficiently and work for themselves, and also go home safely. So in Australia, when it comes to safety, if you don't have all of these things in place, our families don't get to see their parents when they get home in the night time. So what we actually did was really around life-saving technology, as well as I guess the network effect. But for us, that was the purpose behind it. It was never about money. It was the fact that in Australia we were doing something that was incredible for our population, I guess. In the States, they don't have that. They have a massive population and they really couldn't give a shit. They just want the job done. So very, very different culture, and that the lack of heart, I think, and the volume of people that they have to deal with was probably the reason why I left. Not because of anything they did, but it was like, don't you even care? Like, you like this isn't how it's supposed to be. So,
it is like like your old house. You don't keep driving past it to see what the other people do. So when you leave, like when you sell it, part of your life goes with it, and you really miss it for a little while. You miss what it did for your life, but also what it did for everybody else.
And the purpose, yeah, and the purpose. And I think that was, in speaking to Taylor, unfortunately, she can't be here today because she's got a migraine, but when we were chatting with her on Monday about, did you actually, how did you feel when you left? I grieved for probably years. I'm probably only just over it in the last 12 months. And I've been gone for quite a few years. And he was done. He was like, this is life-changing. It's amazing. It's time for the next people to take it on. And so he was able to separate himself from that. The community doesn't allow him to separate himself from it. They were always saying, what are they doing now? Half the time he says, I really don't know, even though his brother's there and runs a business. But it was a really tough time to decide to walk away from that. Especially when we're not money-driven people. Yeah. So even though it changes your life, I still wear the same linen dress in different colours every day to work, as I have for probably 7 or 8 years, and he still wears the same $7 t-shirt. So it is actually, whilst it's life-changing, we're probably pretty proud that it hasn't changed our character or what we want to do in the community as well.
Yeah. And funnily enough, when Craig Jones first got involved with us, he said the first thing he said, are you guys ready to finish? Are you ready to walk away? And we were like, we won't have to walk away.
Why would they not want to keep us? We're fabulous.
But I think I've had this conversation with a few others in this room. When you get into it, you got to be ready to go. The end can happen quicker than what you expect it to, and because of that, if you hold on too long, or if that sways your decision about things, then when you get the offer 12 months after, raising money and it doesn't seem like it's the right time, you get to make some decisions if you're ready to go that you wouldn't normally make if you were trying to hold on and make sure you're involved. So that was, I think, when we're talking to other people who founded businesses and are looking to do something similar, you've got to be ready to move when the opportunity comes around, and we feel like we're that kind of family. I think we said that up there. We always like the connection between the family and everything else that we're involved with. We're involved in a lot of sport and things like that, but definitely opportunistic around the things that we find important to us. We know what they are, and I think the next story is probably, that one seemed like it was busy. This one seems like it's a lot busier, doesn't it? So we've got our team here. The kids wouldn't let us we had all the kids ready to go up on the slide so that we could get them into, because it's the story of what we feel like our family's doing afterwards. But and a lot of what we're doing now has been understanding what the family likes and it becoming a bit more of a lifestyle choice now rather than just about work, which we've been lucky to get involved with. When we first, good that Steph's in the room, because I knew she was coming, that's why I put the slide up. No, but when I first left, I had no plans at all. When you only had 12 months to consider the end, you're not thinking about what the next business is going to look like or anything else that you want to start. So I jumped straight in with people that I knew, and some people gave me some great opportunity at the start, and so some of it was just to understand how it works from the other side, and the Melt's one of those. So I had some great conversations with the guys, and they talked me through what they were looking to do, and I was hooked. I probably did that 5 or 6 times, and some of them were the right decisions, others were not so good, but you learn along the way. This is definitely one of the good ones, and so I came in as mostly just a shareholder at the time, but wanting to understand a little bit more about it. And in the back of my mind, I thought, if there's one of these businesses, these portfolio companies that I'm involved with that sticks, and I feel like it's something that I would be interested in, I might delve in a little deeper. So, which a lot of these things provide you the opportunity to do. We invested in Compete, which everybody probably has seen a few of the Compete team around here, and they're doing really well in the space, in the nutrition space. Another one was called Talkin'. A mate of mine that I started working with. He was the safety manager at BHP Billiton when we were when Pegasus was working there, and went on to form his own. It was a plant, basically the Facebook of plant and equipment. So he had this idea that people want to talk about plant and equipment all around the world, and they want to solve issues together. So how do we make this social network? And they're doing really well, and getting into some very clever AI in that space as well. So again, I am an advisor to these guys, and also an investor. And this is this one that we're probably really keen on. This is so Sundance Growth was one of our original Excel KKR partners that had invested in our business, went out and formed his own growth fund. We're right in. You tend to move towards people that you're impressed by, and we were always impressed by Christian and his team. Doing mostly the things that we know. And this is, I think, what you learn on the other side of it is that you feel like you know lots about business after you finish, but you don't really. Like we know about software, we know about SaaS businesses, we know about software. We mostly know about B2B type software. So you start to realise the things that you're really good at. We couldn't sell B2C. We've had lots of, I try and have a talk to Justin about his business at Camplify. I've got no clue how he does it or what he does.
Very
different
to
businesses. Yeah.
What the consumer wants without the right research.
Yeah, but we can talk to anyone about B2B sales and account-based selling and all those good things that you have to do within a software business. And this is one of them. And so we get involved now in some of the portfolios they're trying to buy, and they include us in the pitches from the other side, and we pick them to pieces the same as everyone used to do to ours, and it's good fun as well. So we get to do a little bit of both in that respect. XT Ventures, same sort of thing. The reason why this one's important is because it introduced me to this one. So XT Ventures invested in Engage RM. Engage RM's now the business that we've invested in the most heavily. I'm the CEO. Jo's our head of customer, which is a very broad title for her because it sort of moves a lot deeper than what it probably should in most head of customer businesses. But maybe do you want to talk about?
Yeah, so my role now at Engage RM, I think talking about doing things that you're passionate about and mixing life with some of your passions. This is a sports tech company. So it sounds like it's about Adam's dream, but I actually like these things too. Adam had always wanted to involve himself at the end of his work life with international travel and sport. And if tech came along, then that would be fabulous. And I think our kids are really heavily involved in sport and love sport, and so are all of our family. And we kind of find that sport brings everybody together and live events bring everybody together. So this sports tech is around ticketing. So we pretty much get exposed to a lot of sporting events around the world, right from NBL games, which I never see him. It's where he'll end up probably doing a tour at some stage. But the A-League clubs in APAC here, AFL clubs, sporting stadiums, so Stadiums Queensland, the MCG. So I'm a bit of a logo girl. When we worked for Pegasus, I would look around everywhere and go, oh, that's a customer, that's a customer, that's a customer. And I get to do the same with sport. So on TV, I'll kind of say, do we have that sporting team? Are they related to us? And so we're still learning the whole business. But it's a ticketing platform for premium sales, corporate sales. So anybody that wants to have an amazing experience outside of general admission tickets. We use the Microsoft suite of software across our whole platform, but we've built our own platform on top of that to complement specific sporting outcomes and the way that sporting companies run their businesses. So it's a really exciting place for us to be, and it involves international travel, sport, and then our love for our kids and keeping our family together as well.
So the business was already 5 or 6 years old when we got involved. We started to look elsewhere, so we were moving into the US and the UK at that stage on the back of the Microsoft partnership that Joe was talking about. We got introduced to the LA Clippers, who were our first US customer now. So we now have 6 NBA clients: the Lakers, the Miami Heat, the Bucks, and the Pelicans. I always miss a couple, but NFL clients, NHL clients, MLB, MLS. So we've got teams in all the big leagues. In the UK, we've got Premier League teams. We're just about to get our first F1 team in the Alpine. Signature on the page tonight, hopefully, as well as some of the biggest venues around the world. So like Joe said, we get to go and watch some amazing things, and they like to, we spent about a month in Melbourne over Christmas at the Australian Open because they wanted to take us and show us the hospitality that we were helping them sell. And amazing, you know, it's just when you, I think the thing that's probably most relevant out of the Pegasus experience was that we got to go and sit in staying mining camps out the back of Moranbah or Blackwater, you know, and that was, do we really have to go up there? And now someone says, oh, do you want to go over and meet an NBA team over in LA or in New York? And we can't stop people from wanting to jump on the plane and go and do those types of things. So it is a bit of chalk and cheese, and you pinch yourself every now and then when you're involved in it. But I guess it's all, you know, culmination of a number of things that happen only through hard work. We're definitely not in the happy stage with this business yet. We always talk about the last 5 years before we sold the business was the best time for us because, you know, you're in a flow. You're generally making money. You then go and get some growth funding, and you try different things, and you feel like it's easy to sell. And so, you know, like Joe said, we're chasing logos. We're high-fiving everybody. We had a story about when we won the Lendlease account. We hadn't heard from them for about probably 3 months. And just by chance, I was about to drive back over the bridge to come back to Newcastle on a day in Sydney. And I said to Joe, I might just go and give them a call and see how they're going with the contract. So I rang them up and the guy goes, oh, hasn't anyone called you? I said, no. I said, oh, it's, we got it signed. It's just sitting at reception if you want to come past and pick it up. So,
which for us was worth millions of dollars over 5 years. So we were really excited. They were like, yeah.
That's right. So I turned back around in North Sydney, came back over the bridge and picked up the contract and drove home. And I called her on the way back. And by the time I got back, everybody, like we'd had 150 people working for us at that time, all standing in the car park waiting for me to drive into the car park, ready to go to the Happy Wombat for our usual celebration. And I had the contract out the window, waving it like this as we're coming in, and everyone. Those were some of the best times, and that's when you feel like you were winning. We're not quite there yet. We're still in the how are we going to make payroll. We just ran a 7 million raise to get us through to break even, hopefully in the next 18 months. We're still burning cash. But we're pretty confident that the things that we know now will help us probably make some quicker decisions than when we were working in Pegasus and didn't know how to do any of that sort of stuff. Didn't know that you could raise money with shareholders, and just kept asking the bank for more and more cooperation most of the time, didn't we? But
and I think probably the main message is if you go and do this and you have some success, if your work ethic and your moral compass isn't about money, those things will actually come. So where I'm completely back in the trenches, ads back in the trenches, we're talking to our staff every single day. It's like one family that is literally all on the same level. We're just all working towards one common goal again, and helping young people now, even within our own teams, to understand that hard work is the only way to get to where you want to, because there's a lot of people that have fabulous ideas and they want this story, but they forget the 20 years that we worked prior to this story coming. And we may be, hopefully not, we may be still doing this in another 10 years, but we've had to start from the bottom, and we never expected to start at the top and work back down. We like to get to know our staff, we like to do what our staff does, and we like to make sure that everybody feels empowered to rise, and not, I guess, feel like there is a hierarchy within the business when you're at that growth phase. Everybody takes a hit. Some days are great, some days aren't so great, but you celebrate the wins, and then in 12 months' time you look back and say, remember this time last year, this is what we were stressed about, and then we've got a new stress the next year. So I think, whilst we're, it's our sales guy calling, just called you as well. So I think whilst whilst it's great to be at this end of the scale, and we don't consider ourselves to be experts, we're very intuitive with how we treat people within the business, how we work ourselves, how we engage with our staff, and how we listen. And we also now are in our 50s, so we're trying to understand how young people work, and they want to work casual, and nobody wants a full-time job anymore. It's like, Jesus Christ, I'm a Scorpio, so I'm pretty vocal, but it's not uncommon for us to have conversations around with our HR manager, but like, how do these guys work? Like, they just think so differently. And on the other end, we've never employed anybody that isn't better than us. We always employ people that have a different skill set to us, and we learn from the next person. And so that's probably one of our biggest people
and one of the
measures
things
that we have.
We're most proud of after Pegasus was that there was maybe 15 or 20 people who made close to $1 million, on the exit to pay off mortgages, and people who had been with us for the whole 15 years, and that was the best part. Like, being able to give them
knowing that all
freedom.
of our friends were duly rewarded for their hard work, and it was recognised way before the transaction. By the way, when things were really tough, that was when, they were offered equity and ESOP and all sorts of things. But there was actually nothing more satisfying than seeing those people pay off their mortgages, and some have gone on to have rental properties and change careers and all of those. So that's as rewarding as what it was for us to sell.
We'll finish up just if. That seems like it's not enough. We also own.
Yeah, so we've got 2 coffee shops, and this is literally a feel-good story. Ad met this guy called Nathaniel. Well, we were going to this cafe for a year every day. Loved this guy, very grungy, very different, incredibly intelligent. He was studying corporate psychology and bought this coffee shop to put himself through university. He actually then found that he thought, I actually really like coffee. Maybe I don't like psychology. And he was having a chat with Ad when Ad was getting a coffee one morning. He's like, I've only got 12 months left on my lease and my degree's nearly over. I don't really know if I'm going to do that. And Ad said, what are you going to do with the shop? He goes, I've got a little bit of debt. I don't think I'll survive. And he said, what's debt? Like, what's your debt? And he said, 25 grand. And Ad goes, if you're going to stay here and you want to give coffee a go, I'll clear your debt and you get moving. So it's like a story where you meet somebody that inspires you every day in something that and we still don't know anything about it. And every time Ad tries to give him advice, he's like, man, this guy's intense. But this is just giving a young guy a go. He now has his own coffee brand that we've helped him to develop and to nurture, and he's gone into having a second shop. That literally is. We just like drinking coffee. And our son works there now, so
that's right.
That's his first part-time job. And
we got involved in the Three Blue Ducks, another group of restaurants. My cousin, my brother-in-law's in the crowd at the moment, actually, knows this story. So my cousin is on MasterChef as one of the judges, Andy Allen. And Andy's one of the celebrity chefs that works for these guys. There's 2 or 3 of them. They were these next ones that I'll show you are all kind of stories of how we've thought about life afterwards. They're great start, great people. These guys made their way through COVID unscathed with an enormous debt that's now been paid off, and they're on the other side of it. We really liked it. We liked working with them. I chair the board now. We've opened two restaurants since I've been involved. One now down in. So these guys have the farm up at Byron Bay. If anyone's been to that place, we're about to open another one down in Barrel with Annie Cannon-Brooks is now one of our shareholders as well. She's bought 4 farms down there that we're putting a restaurant and a bakery and a general store on, and it's just good fun. Like, it's really, really good fun. We'll probably never make any money on it, but it's good to see other people and back other people and take something that is probably, not worth too much when you get involved to something that's of value and maybe gives them an option to exit at some point in time. So that's where that one's got to. The other few stories of that, we got involved in, we really like beer. So we were one of the early
He
investors.
actually, before he did that, he didn't even really drink ever, and he still doesn't. But everybody
C-Mac
always
hates this too, 'cause
everybody always laughs about why
he'll
he's
say this
involved
is not a
in
very
a
good
beer.
beer.
Yeah.
But Andy's involved in this as well, along with Travis Fimmel, Ragnar. Everyone knows Ragnar. Ragnar was on that first slide that we had at the front. But they're doing really well, about to hit the US, grown out of sight. Another one, Doozy, with three of the boys from the Swans.
Because they're his favourites.
Swansea.
That's the only reason he's like, oh, this is pretty
The Swans,
cool.
yeah,
These kids are pretty cool.
Yeah, they asked us to get involved and give them a bit of advice at some point in time. So we did that and ended up jumping in on this one. They'll do pretty well as well. They're not our biggest investment, but it's good to be involved with. And no, we can. I can. I should have done that. That would have been a good.
Yeah.
But last year the start of this year actually got involved in the box office Jets, and the rest is history, so they say. So I'm just joking.
He's taking credit for the winning.
I can't say. Yeah.
Like, you're only on the board, mate. You turn up to the games. You're actually. Yeah.
Again, one of those businesses that had a lot of potential, just needed a bit of a push. We got a new coach. Millsy's the story of the year, I'm sure, and Tane Drinkwater, who came to us as the CEO, very accomplished, and two very good people come back to our region now, and we were just trying to connect the town back to the team to see how it would go. We won the Australia Cup. We're sitting in first spot at the moment, on our way to the finals, hopefully. Millsy keeps telling us not to talk too much about the future, but it's cool. We're glad to be involved. So,
I think again one of those things that he'd never watched a game of soccer live in his life. Actually, we did, and we decided never to go back again. And that was a Jets game, so it was quite. I was really miffed when he came home and said, I really want to do this. But again, he loved the people and he loved the passion. And that fire in his belly for the Jets came because he thought that we needed to reignite sport in Newcastle. We've got all these great precincts, and we have a community of people that if your team's not winning, you don't turn up. And so we have to fix that culture and get our kids out and see some of this sport. So soccer was probably a bit of a shock, but we love it now. It's fantastic, and
we're off to the World Cup.
We need to do it. Yeah, we're off to the World Cup. Yeah.
So that's it. Yeah.
Well done.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I just I'm taller when I stand up, actually.
I just want to say a massive thank you. I think we're so lucky with like the talent, the stories that we have in our Hunter and Newcastle region, and you guys have made my job so hard because I thought I was talking about 1 or 2 stars, and there's like 9 right here. I want to sort of bring it back to the beginnings of Pegasus a bit. It sounds like you have a real complete. Basically, like market dominance there. So you said something like 4 million blue collar workers through your systems and your databases, and I would have thought that's almost all of them, right? And so it's a clear value out there in terms of just being able to have like an unfair advantage. What the questions that we've got coming through here, and these are before the events, so some of these might have been answered, but the one there that sort of links is like, how did Pegasus sort of start initially? Like, what were those sort of early days like, and what did the team look like? Because it wasn't initially just you two, you were entering into it. Can you mind just expanding on that?
Yeah, I think we were already in a couple of mine sites, and I think when we thought about growing the business, we only ever thought about maybe we'll go and get another mine site. You know, if we can convince someone else to do the same thing, and we were in that very much a rinse and repeat, which is what SaaS is all about. If you can do it without having to build anything different, like you make money on it every time. You're just turning on a different configuration of the same thing and you keep going again. So we were just thinking in terms of that. I think when we started to feel like we got a bit more confidence, we would go after an organisation that had 8 mines, you know, or then we'd go and talk to our first business outside of mining was Woolworths, who at the time had 15,000 stores, you know, across all of their different brands. And so all of a sudden, like you're thinking, how on earth are we going to do this? Like most of the businesses that are around were were in the Hunter Valley, that we were servicing at the time. And then we had to try and work on a way to service all of these Woolworths sites all the way across Australia without having any staff anywhere near them. So these are all these kind of sliding door moments where you start to think, well, for us to do that, we're going to have this polished portal environment that people can do it themselves. We become the verifier, not the doer. And so that's how we built that original model, which in the end started to be the only reason that we scaled quickly.
Yes.
Yeah.
What were some like the teething moments of when you take those bigger clients on? So you're talking about Woolworths being in places where you don't have people at all.
Yeah.
Like, do you have some interesting stories from those?
The transport one. Yeah.
So, like going back to mining and then to retail, one of the biggest challenges around replicating that model was the legislative requirements in mining is incredible. So there was a lot of work to be done. In retail, they didn't have as many fatalities, although they did at the time have quite a number of fatalities, which is why we were selected. But their compliance was this much compared to mining being this much. And so we then had to work with a customer that didn't have much margin. So retail, we know, is like 3%, mining, goodness knows how much. So we also had to reduce our cost and introduce a new costing model for that. So where mines would pay for everything because they want to keep people safe and the law said that they had to do that, retail still had law, but their rules were very different and they were quite subtle. So it was much easier, in essence, to manage. But it had to be faster. It also had to be available everywhere. So like I'd said, there was, we have a story where we have a plumber in Weeper. So we had incredibly good staff and very, very patient staff where we went through a transition of technology. So we had guys that had never even opened up a computer. We had contractors whose wife would do all the paperwork and he would go to work and wouldn't do anything. And the wife goes, I know we're insured, but I don't know for how much. So what's this rule now that we have to have a certain amount? So we started to really just talk people through that process. We went back to fax machines because in some of the country areas, they only had a fax machine. They didn't know how to use email. So we would post out paperwork. They would post it back. There was so much base stuff that we had to do, but we wouldn't be here today if we didn't adapt to that. And I think the world's going through that adaptation again now, where our kids are growing up with technology in their hand. Now I'm the one that needs to be taught the difference. So your business has to adapt to those kind of things as well. But I think once we realised that the model was actually repeatable in the fact that what's the legislation, what's the client need to, I guess, manage the expectations of the law to keep people safe, you knew that you actually had a good model. So when mining collected this, obviously there was a lot more effort for us, so they would charge more. For retail, the effort was this, so they were able to be charged less because you weren't doing as much. And once we got that model right, Ad says a lot of it is rinse and repeat. I beg to differ, it's not. We had to do a lot of development for each different cohort of industries, but it allowed us to scale. Once we went from one end of the scale to the other with the mining and retail, everything in between became really, really good.
Yeah, and it is a hustle. Like Joe's talking about one of our other clients, Transport for New South Wales, who you would think would be quite adaptable to the technology. At a point in time, we had to onboard all of their people. They had 25,000 contractors that needed to come on in a period of 2 months. And we'd set up all of our portals. We had to get them to sign to say move stuff over from another system into ours, so, which today would be, you send around a DocuSign, everyone would do it without even thinking, but no one did that back then. So we did it for about 2 weeks and no one did anything. Like we're sitting there, there's still no people had signed this thing. So they said to us, well, is it a stupid idea to send them all out in mail and give them a
return
envelope, a return envelope to send it back?
Envelope and send their form back.
And so 2 days later, we get a call from the guy at Australia Post over at Marketown. He goes, "You better come over here."
He's the funniest man. Yeah.
So we carried back these 4 pallets of return letters that then we had to open up and scan every single one of them. And so
everybody's kid worked at Pegasus for a bit. Some people opened the envelope, some people scanned it into the system.
And we went back to labour hire to get them, so we were running 2 shifts. We'd have people starting at 6 in the morning, finishing at 2, and then we'd turn the office over and another 40 people would come in on a second shift. just to get through this in like the 3 months. And because you didn't outsource anything then, like we didn't have an office over in Manila like we do now, where you've got untapped resource to be able to go and throw this sort of thing at when you need to. So, it was just like you just hustled. You just found a way to do it, I think, and they were the best times.
But it was actually,
they were the ones you remember.
It was actually fun. I was really bad at data entry at that stage, and we actually found in quite a few communities that there was exactly the same name but a different date of birth. So I was like, oh my God, I've seen this one before, I've already entered it. And so I would be saying to the team, I've already put Abdul Hassan in, and they would go, oh, hang on, I'll look up. I'm like, oh God, there's six with this, and I had no idea that even existed, but I thought my data entry was really bad. And I was like, oh, I haven't signed that one off properly or something, but then anyway, I gave up on data entry pretty quickly, and it wasn't 25,000, it was 125,000 that we put through in that time. Talking about, he just had to pay for all the stuff, and talking about adapting, in that time, Transport for New South Wales had a deadline for legislation to say they had to have done this particular task by a certain time. And so when they said to us, how do you think we can get all these people to do this to show compliance? We said, you need to shout them. So you have to pay for it. Don't ask them to pay for it. So we gave everybody 1 month to get their forms in, which was why the pallets came in, because the government said, we have to do this. We've got to keep people safe. We're behind the 8 ball with safety and compliance. So we will invest in it, because ultimately they were charging back, the contractor would charge them back anyway for that work. So we took out the middleman. So we had to find ways to do that. And then also that enabled us to employ more people to get the job done, because they had to pay us up front as well. So lots of little things like that go on in the background that you have to adapt with.
Yeah, you guys sound like you find the problem and you just go full speed to that. And go, that's what we've got to do.
Find a way.
Yep.
I've got another question. This one comes from Julian Day, and the question is about like that made it moment. So you talk about the last 5 years of the business being the best. Yeah. I think we had very different COVIDs. You guys sound like you were really stressed during that period. What was the period where you think it was the made it? Was those last 5 years? For Pegasus? When did that feeling come? Or was it always, we're just plugging holes?
You always felt like that. But I think at the end of every year, you look back and you think, how did we get here? Like last year, we were talking about completely different things. And it's always a good reminder for every business, I think, is that guarantee in 12 months' time, you'll have advanced and you'll be talking about things that you never thought you would be talking about now. And so you always judge yourself harshly. But I think for us, it was when you got on top of that tipping point of sales. Like when you can turn up to someone and you don't feel like it's an effort to sell anymore, and you know that they're going to call you back, and you know that you better get a contract ready because it's coming, and all that flow starts to happen a lot quicker. And at the same time, we were starting to travel to tell the story of the business in places like New York, LA, San Francisco, and the UK, and so being able to have this almost like you wouldn't go into a competitor's environment and tell them all of your secrets, but we'd got that confidence that we could do that by then, because one of these was eventually going to buy us. And so you're trying to, at that point, maybe show them how far ahead you are, and I think that was, we knew at that stage that we'd kind of had that confidence as well.
It sounds like for Australia also you had like that many people in your system where you can just go, well, this makes common sense.
Yeah, and we'd held the others out. I think the reason that Craig got involved with us to start with was, and this is I think I saw this on one of the other questions, but he saw us on somebody's M&A page of, potential. These are the guys in Australia who own all of the contractor management market, and so if you can get yourself onto those M&A pages, there's not only the people that win the raise, but also all the other private equity and venture capital funds that don't win, that are looking to see who the next one is, and they see you on a couple of them and think, maybe we go and talk to these guys because eventually these guys are going to buy them. And that was, to Craig's credit, exactly what happened.
Wow, very cool. Okay, this is now shifting towards the growth and scaling sort of base, I guess. We sort of touched on that anyway. This one comes through from Jadmani. Do you have any capital injections to grow the business? I think we touched on that a little bit.
Yeah.
It's just organic.
Yeah.
What period was that capital injection to then go?
Yeah. That was at the fun part. Like, it was, we didn't really need to do it at the time.
Whenabouts was that again, sorry?
2017? 2019, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2017 we kind of started looking.
Okay.
2019 we took growth funding. Probably didn't need it, but it was also a chance for us to let the market know that we were serious and also that we wanted to get into the US and the UK. So we knew it would come quickly after that as far as the end game. We didn't think it would be 12 months.
Yeah.
Like that was the...
It's interesting that you say the validation that you got from that as well, even though you guys talk about how you wanted to push down the valuation.
Yeah, that's right.
I find that really funny as well.
And we didn't know anything about it either. That was, advice that we'd gotten from others who had been involved in it before. But completely makes sense when you explain it that way. You know?
And also too, it was kind of uncertain times around. You have this pipeline of work, but it was unusual for them to say, oh, they're actually at a negotiation stage with all of these contracts. We could have still lost it, but we were always very confident that we were going to win it. And I think our pipeline was pretty accurate. And so, and one of the other things I think that probably made us successful, and from my side, when I knew that we were doing really well, was actually after the sale. So after the sale, the American team told me I had to have this guy called an SDR, which was a sales direct representative or some crap, I don't know. Anyway, I was like, I don't even know what a sales SDR is.
You had to personally have one.
I had to have one for my region.
Right.
And when I said, oh, okay, well, that sounds exciting. What does this guy do? What's he going to do as part of a sales team? I thought he was going to manage our CRM. And no, he had to call 30 customers a day to talk about Pegasus. And I was like, we don't do business like that. We're problem solvers. And besides that, he's not going to have anybody to call within a month. He's going to have called every contracting company and every organisation in Australia. So that was probably where I started to clash a little bit with how we do business versus, the population in the States and how they do business. But one of the real reasons that I think we did well was because we never cold called ever. We got referrals and we grew our business incredibly organically without realising at the time that we were doing it, because we were great listeners and we were great problem solvers. So we became less about the software and more about solving the client's problem. So whether it was ageing workforce, or whether it was people that couldn't use computers, or whether it was people that skills shortage areas and you were helping them in different ways, we were selling less about our software and more about our ability to help change.
Yeah, and prior to Excel KKR, obviously, we weren't always making money, and we funded the business through our own organic growth. At the start, we funded it through the labour hire business. We then sold the labour hire business and knew we had another 3 years of runway to go. We almost missed twice, and on both those occasions, you talk about hustling, but one of those times when Joe was just talking about the Transport for New South Wales paying for it up front, that was a necessity for us. She talked them into paying all of that money before the 30th of June to us on a promise that we'd do the work afterwards. So she brought in $2 million in a month, and we were done. Like, if we didn't have that, we're not sitting here at the moment. We're actually trying to pay off. We're probably bankrupt, I would say, at that point. But we sat down to have a talk about how we would get through this. And she goes, I'm just going to ask him for it. Like, as simple as, and we're going, what are you talking about? You can't go and ask a government agency for $2 million.
I get along with them. I can ask them. I'll just put it out there. They can laugh at me.
But we worked through the problem, and by the end of it, it made sense. It made perfect sense towards both strategies of them wanting to get all those people in at once, and us just about to finish up, so...
Mind you, none of our staff knew that. Only we knew that.
I think you both seem far too relaxed.
We're actually not. We're not. If you ask CMAC, we're not that. We're not that relaxed.
Oh my goodness! There you go. We have a question here which I think is really important, and it sort of links to I2N as well. This one comes in from Daniel. He's asking about what's the best. So you both have, I think you both have very similar values from what it sounds from just briefly meeting you, but also very different personalities. what's your best advice in finding that co-founder to build a business, to decide someone else to help you out and matching your skills? Say, for instance, a technical co-founder as well. It's the question specifically asked.
We didn't have a choice, did we?
No, I think that we really like each other, obviously, but we have very different skill sets, and we respect each other's skill set, and we probably don't cross over. And I think Ad's business head and my way of thinking to get people on board is probably what suits us best. And sometimes we've seen founders that have gone, I need a CFO. Like, do you? Do you really, like, you're going okay, you're able to do that, you're at that stage where you've got those skills? Or I need a HR person. I'm like, do you? You've got 5 people. Maybe you need someone to coach you in, how to manage people. So I think we always find people that we want to work with, firstly because we like them and they're passionate. Right. Nothing to do with their skill set. And then we find somewhere for them to fit. So we have a bit of a weird way of
I think
probably
also,
bringing...
everybody's a problem. Like we've tried to work our way through problems without anything ever being anyone's fault, and that's, like, I think in life that we do that now. Like, the kids will get in trouble. I just said to Joe on the way in here, my daughter just got in trouble at school again today, like for the second time in 2 days. But you like, if you kind of let it fester for a long time, which can happen in families and especially in partners working together, then it can cause trouble at home. We kind of get on with things, and we always have. And you just, like, it annoys you for a while, but then you get on with it, and in the end, you're on to the next one. There's always another one coming, but if you expect it to come, and you get on the other side of them quickly, then it works out well.
Yeah, I think that attitude and mentality, anyone in the audience can say that's really clear with you both. And I think that leads to all this other extra stuff, all this impact as well. I'm going to pass...
That was never the plan, by the way. By the end of it, we couldn't say no to a lot of things, and we're probably now regretting it. Like, we're trying to find time for everything at the moment, which is no good. We'd rather just be, spending time at the Jets for the for the next. While
they're on a winning streak. No,
right.
Just
eating food in the 3 Blue Ducks, but it's.
That sounds alright.
And drinking beers.
We should do a lucky prize for one person.
No, definitely. Right. Yeah, definitely.
I'm going to pass to the audience because I think the last couple of questions that we had on there, they're all about the life story and also the exit. And I think we got a couple of really good answers there too.
Does anyone have any other questions? Yeah,
Adam, I was just curious, when you made reference to Lend-Lease, were they a Pegasus client or an engaged RM?
No, Pegasus client, yeah.
What was the year for that? You just quick U-turn, spun around, straight to
that's right,
So was that in the context of their construction site?
Yeah, so we gated all of their construction sites, and to get through those turnstiles that you see they're still there. If you walk through mostly Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane areas, there'll be the site set up with a turnstile there. To get through that turnstile, you still need a Pegasus card, and to get a Pegasus card, you need to have been pre-qualified to get into the building. And most of them work across every one of their sites, so that's the context. Still, DJs were a client one, and still are, I think. And we remembered walking through. We used to have these visitor, like before COVID. We were doing, and this is why we went well in COVID as well, but we were doing those visitor kiosks and stuff way before everybody else was. And so we'd print out this little sticker that people would stick on their shirt with a QR code on it, and you could go and scan your mobile app and see whether that person's trained and qualified and everything. But I remember one day we were walking through Sydney and we saw this guy with one of our stickers on. This is early in the piece, and we were like, how cool is that?
Look at that. That's one of our stickers. Oh, that's one of our stickers.
We're taking selfies with this guy, so with one of our stickers on his shirt. But,
yeah, it was pretty fun.
I wanted to bring up, so you like the network effects with Pegasus, but obviously there's obvious network effects with Engage, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we were looking for similarities when we first started, like all the things that we knew, and that's definitely one of them. One of the things that is, we've been there for 1.5 years. These guys sell club to club. So, we try and get more AFL clubs, more NRL clubs, more, NBA clubs, and more venues like the MCG and Adelaide Oval and things like that. But we're now lifting our heads a bit to try and look for organisations like AEG who own 150,000 venues around Australia, you know, and we're in conversations at the moment with the NBA. We've got 2 partnerships with Ticketek and Ticketmaster that will probably go live with in the next 6 months. That'll hopefully with Ticketek give us access to all of their customers. It's those sorts of things that become the network effect that these guys had no idea that they could get into to start with when we first got there. But you kind of, you know, you're a little bit of a cheerleader to start with, to say you can do it. Like, you know, let's lift our heads a bit and go after something a bit bigger. And that's when you can start to attract some better investment as well.
Doesn't hurt to put yourself out there and have a crack.
Yeah.
Like there's not much bad that can happen out of a good conversation. You'll get a yes or a no.
I do have a follow-on too. So yeah, sorry. So you build on a business stack rather than a tech stack, because now you're a sports club owner, so you've got that knowledge to feed. I could throw in a few tie-ins about distributing your beer through the channels.
Yeah, definitely. We'd like to be able to find a few of those. Actually, one of our new investors in Engage RM is Yuri Domasic from Doma. And you see all the Doma signs up on point because they own most of this along here. But he knew that we were involved with the 3 Blue Ducks, and he's got a potential site down here that he wants to do a bit of a collab on. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years we might have a 3 Blue Ducks here in Newcastle. But the worlds start to collide after a little while. You don't realise it's as small as it.
But there's not a lot of people that know that he does all that. So it's not until you actually talk to him that they start to piece it all together and go, could you introduce me? And so, yeah, he's
the event for it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Just when you made the decision to exit, when you took that first raise, it sounded like you're almost in the back of your mind going, this is the start of the end, that was where it was going to go. What was the sort of thinking around, was it another conversation around, I've got another 10 years in this business, and how did you reach that decision, and why was it different for the two of you? You both had different views on that.
Yeah, we definitely did. And I think Jo wanted to make sure that she kept going, you know, because she's important in the business. And I thought the same. I really thought if this business survives another 10 years, then she'd need to be there. Because operationally she was, you know, the other people are going to have different strategies around how they grow it, so they won't need me as much, but they'll need her. We thought 5 to 10 years after that first raise. But we had to go back and remember the conversation with Craig around, you have to be ready to go now. And so he kept reminding us of that, you know, for the next 12 months afterwards.
Yeah, a lot actually, to the point where I was like, what does he keep saying? Like, will they just sack us on the day? Like, I was really like, this sounds like it's really, like, not very good.
You felt that way?
Because I think we cared about the staff. And to go, you'll just finish up, we were like, like how will they all? What will happen to everybody else?
You don't think about it in terms of how regular business works, not what happens afterwards. And I think that, you know, we sold the business for nearly $160 million. What we didn't know after that was that they, as a condition of the sale, I had to roll half of my shares in, and so you've still got investment at risk. But Avetta sold again for. I think just under $5 billion about 3 years later, and we cashed out at that stage. We didn't get an option, but we cashed out at that stage, and I never knew that was coming. And you didn't feel like you earned it, like you were hustling for the whole time, and you felt like you earned the other stuff. But when you got to the end and this check turns up in your bank account, and you think, that's more money than I've ever thought I would. Yeah, like I don't feel like I earned that, but that's just good luck, you know, and it continues to happen afterwards if you can get the right deal. Yeah.
I think if it's in the bank, you earned it. Any other questions? You had a question.
Yeah, Steph. Yeah.
You are both amazing leaders. I'm very, very humble about it. How do you actually find the people that you want to surround yourselves with?
They're all the same.
Can I answer that?
Everyone that used to work at Pegasus now works at Engager. We just moved them up.
I've got one story where we were at Katara in a having dinner, romantic dinner at Zeus before we went to the movies. And we met this really bubbly young girl, and we're having a chat with her, and she was like, "Oh, what do you guys do on air?" She was so full on. And I said to Ad, "Oh, I really like her." I said, "Oh, what are you going to uni, or do you work here full time?" She goes, "Oh, I've worked here for ages, but I'm trying to get an admin job." And I said, "Call us. We'll give you." I just liked her. I was like, give this kid a go. Like, she was so bold to tell two strangers what she wanted to do with her life. And she ended up being a team leader. She was just so into it. It wasn't funny. And that is just how we roll. It's like, if we like you and you've got something to offer and you bring the energy, we can teach you everything else. If you have the wrong attitude, you never last long working with us, because all the other people around us are similar. So, yeah. And Viv works with us, so you can probably attest to how silly we are.
For the accidental preneurs in the room, what tips have you got for people that like work mainly on product but have a successful business, for scale? Like, what sort of outside help should we bring in for scale, and then preparing for exits?
Don't think too much about the exit all the time. Like, it's definitely about the momentum that you get along the way. You need to. The hardest thing about software is trying to convince somebody else that they've got to buy it. Like, it's not the building the software part. It's definitely in the sell, and then it's keeping all of those people happy enough that they'll then go and tell other people, you should get this. Like, this is, this does it really well for us. So that once you've got that, then you've cracked it, and that's the secret sauce. If you can go and get that from both your existing clients and your new, then you can start to build something then that in the end you go, that is valuable. Like, it's not a matter of trying to prove it to everyone. Yeah. The scaling thing is a hustle. It's just, there's no tried and true. It's just trying to anticipate the future, and I think that's probably what I do best, is that you kind of, if you think about it 2 years from now and you start to get ready, then you're moving some people into a spot that you don't really probably need them right now, but at some point in time you've got them here and they'll be able to do that part for you as well. So it's kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together a little bit before you need them, in a way that doesn't cost the business too much money, that it's sort of driving you out of. Exactly. Yeah.
And then I'll play with the team to get them on board with, subtly get them on board with future ideas without them really realising, oh God, now we've got to do this next thing. It's like everybody feels like they're part of the innovation.
Everybody at Engage ARM hated new clients when we first got there. Hated new clients. Like, we would get in there and they go, not another one. Like, this is, and we were like, maybe this was a bad decision.
We've kind of turned the tide there. We're getting them excited about the pipeline now. But when we started, it was like, oh my God, I accidentally worked at Engage OM for a start. I was listening to Ad have a call with someone. I was like, if you need some help, I'm happy to come and help. And the next day, I was...
You need to say that twice.
I'll just come and help you maybe have a look around at what needs to be done. And then I never left. I was like, man, you need some help. These people are freaking out everywhere. And it was just that they just hadn't had any direction, I think, and hadn't been able to stay calm and then keep moving. They just needed some direction. That was it. They were all fabulous people, but they were all wearing so many different hats that they were like, oh, who am I now? And that's still necessary for most of our staff. Everybody wears at least 2 or 3 different hats, but we know the people that will eventually wear the one hat as it scales. And
We had a question from a person. Yes, please.
As a B2B SaaS founder, a lot of the story resonates really interesting. Do you have advice around, for other SaaS builders, the deployment of capital towards building the technology? And you mentioned before about customizing solutions for different clients. That's really hard to kind of depart from your main solution and build that customization. Have you got any advice around how to think about that and how to think about scaling?
We're in the middle of that right now. Is pulling back all the customizations and being the expert in what we do. So I look after everybody that looks after customers, and we introduced a support model to the business. So we're like, for ticket items, they've got to go through this support channel where it can get resolved or fixed really quickly. what we came up with really quickly is that our customer solutions team were configuring our Microsoft software to do things that we didn't even know that it could do and giving that to the customer. So when it broke or when they couldn't get it to work, we were like, who did that? That's really cool, but who did that? And so then like our business would go into a couple of hours of a spin trying to work out how that happened, why it happened. And then we started to probably do too many small bespoke things for each customer. So now the last 12 months, we've said, what's our best practice? But we've only gotten there because we've built so much bespoke stuff. So you kind of have to in order to then pull it back, unfortunately. Like it's not you can't do a one size fits all when you're starting up because that's not how you grow your business.
And it's
Nothing's
at
ever
least
perfect.
an hour long conversation, that one. So
Yeah.
we can catch up with you afterwards. But
We could do a session on that.
I think you've got to know your numbers well. Like our business spends 65% of our revenue on R&D at the moment, which is way too much. So, but we've got to be working towards 40. Like 40, 35 is the number for us. You've got to have a pathway to get there. We need to at the moment because we're not finished. And Ticketek needs something from us and the NBA needs something from us, and we're not going to say no, obviously, but we've got to go and find the money to be able to pay for it. So that's that's how businesses burn capital, burn cash at the moment. We've got to do that until the point in time that Ticketek are on, Ticketmaster are on, NBA are on, they're all paying good money, and we can afford to be at 40% net at that point in time. Yeah. I think Kyle's got one. Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Fantastic story.
Thanks, man.
The network effect, I've heard it, the network effect with so many different other industries, and it could mean many things, but I'm interested in the original business and then the pivot. You know, many businesses stop, that they don't even pivot, they just stay the same.
Yep.
And then, but you successfully pivoted and then scaled.
Yeah.
But on the back of the local network, let's call it Mines and other.
Yep.
And I just love where you've taken the business, and it's incredible numbers that most don't achieve. But what have you learned going elsewhere to then all come back, and you've lived here all along?
Yeah. Yep.
And for those that get the experience to go elsewhere and learn and come back home and live,
Yep.
is the network the same? Is the hunter still where you could start and grow a business?
Yeah.
And what do you see as the strengths in the changing economy? We've got the uni, the airport, the port, and all the big great things. But what is it that you like about the hunter? That you'd start a business and grow it?
I'm going to answer this like I've answered it before.
He's very passionate about this.
I think we see Australia, but mostly the hunter, because it's a sort of a smaller microcosm of what we did there, was as a future first type environment where you can go and test something in a place where you're literally at the coal face, so you can go up, and we would take our developers up onto the coal mine and say, see these guys driving the trucks at the moment, this is why you're doing this. And so what that did was give them a better understanding of the type of user experience that they needed to have for these guys, because they realised these guys are just driving trucks all day. They don't need to go home and sit there on a laptop and do all of this stuff that they don't. You've got to make it quick and practical, and so it's definitely, you can find great people here who understand, who are generationally know what this whole industry is about, and not just mining, rail that heads to here, the ports over here. You've got this whole retail and hospitality industry that supports the whole thing. You've got property, you've got the light rail. We were on that project. Like, we had this little sub region of Australia that we dominated here for a long time, before we then started to go a bit further out and dominate a bit further, and at a reasonable price. Like, the thing that's been hardest about this Engage RM business is that we've got, the minute someone leaves from Melbourne, I hire someone from Newcastle, because it costs me $220,000 to get a decent dev in Melbourne, and it costs me $100 to $120 here in Newcastle. So that's the difference. You can do things in a much easier business model, with enormous amount of connection, lots of great people around who are more than happy to, they want to support you. We all like supporting each other. It's we say about the Jets is that once you show them that you're committed, they'll be committed to you as well. And that's definitely true of Newcastle. It's not true of every other city in Australia, I don't think. Yeah.
And I think we're definitely leading the way with connection from university to industry and ideas. So we have a really good model where industry does want to be involved in new ideas and new tech because they want to keep our university students local. They don't, if they go away and they come back, like fair enough, but I don't actually believe that a lot of people do want to go and come back. I think they do want to stay here. They are forced to leave because they think that there's opportunity in other places for them, and that's why they leave. So I think some other discussions that we've had with the university and been lucky enough to go and listen to even how education works. We've got a really good university here that can go and try some things within a group of schools if we wanted to. We're not that far apart from each other that we can't do some really cool things in the Hunter. That's what we love about it. It's not necessarily even about our business, but it's about what our universities are teaching and then putting it into practice with real life industry experience, not just go to university, then you have to go somewhere else to do prac or, we've got all of that here. We just need it all to connect a little better, which I2N does very well.
I was just about to say, great plug for I2N.
It is.
Look, we're going to cut the questions there. The reason is because then we get a networking where everyone can come up and ask as many questions as you like. We'll try and keep the hordes away for a little bit.
That's okay.
We really want to say a massive thank you to you both. We really appreciate it. I think it's such a fascinating story. I think it's some really clear themes that drive through, and it's all about how you actually care. I think there's a huge probably difference, which may be why you felt so uncomfortable with when it started pivoting towards the US. And I think that shines through not only in Pegasus, but also Engage RM and all these other projects. And thank you for caring by coming to I2N.
No worries.
No worries.
Thanks for having us.